Look at this, it's a Vauxhall Astra, a Mk.2 Vauxhall Astra, not one of those horrible Astra H's that you see everywhere. It is, as you can see, an F-Reg, F for Freddy. That makes that 1988. Oh, it could be 89 actually, come to think of it. Whatever the case, it's quite old. That means that this car is 33 years old, or is it 34 years old? Either way, that's very old. It's not as old as me though. The colour is brown, or it might be gold, but it's definitely not purple. When these cars were all over the roads, I didn't really look at them, but then again nobody did. But now they're not all over the roads, you will. You'll want to have a look at this because it's definitely a thing of the past. A thing of 30 odd years ago. In fact, even 25 years ago they were a bit thin on the ground. See the family resemblance with the Mk.2 Cavalier and indeed the Carlton. It's quite a bonny face really. When the Mk.3 Astra come about, people preferred it because it looked more modern. When the Mk.4 Astra come about, I'm not sure they did because it just looked a little bit uninspired. Then the Mk.5 looked really very nice indeed, but now they just look like chabmobiles. This now looks like a very lovely old car with its grey bumpers and skinny wheels and that kind of side trim down the side of there. It's stacked rear lamp, and then this here looks like it's got some sort of external speaker. I remember these as police cars. So perhaps the police use that to actually have some sort of Nino going on. Look at the lines though, it's also very simple. Just a big slab side separated by this rubbing strip here with the three dents in there, and it kind of almost matches the wheel trim. So that's got 4 slats, that's got 3, and then more slats here. That's quite interesting as well because of course everything's got a fuel filler flap on it now. That just spins around like some sort of play toy. Back end's also very cute with these rather small light clusters really in comparison to what you have nowadays. Such a 1980s typeface where it says Vauxhall there. And then this ever so slight boot lip, almost like it wants to have a spoiler, but Santa ran out of money that year. These were much more economical than the Ford equivalent and kind of not as nice to drive, but just a lot more pleasing when you could afford to drive. I'm wondering if these doors are still as thin. It's locked. I'm wondering if these doors are as thin as they look, because that looks like a very slim. Oh, it is a very slim door indeed. Best thing to do is just not crash it. Let's see what they sound like on the close. Well, a nice kind of clubby sound. Another really 80s feature is probably all these ridges in the rear bumper and the fog lamps that look like they've been put there as an afterthought. You can see it's got brand new exhaust on it, that's nice. The wheel trims are rather stylish actually, but look how thin these wheels are. 155 R13s. You know what that gives you? Comfort, but not sport. Most of the time we want comfort anyway. You know, who buys a couch so they can feel uncomfortable? Nobody does, do they? You know, you just don't do that kind of thing. You buy a couch so you can be sat down comfortable and watch Netflix if that's your kind of thing. But you don't buy it so you can be bounced around the front room with a headache and your teeth falling out. Another all familiar 80s features is this scuttle panel there, which isn't underneath the bonnet. The big griffin on the front there. With, you know, you can't tell what it's supposed to be these days, but yeah, I prefer that griffin. It looks more like a mythical creature. Never would I have thought of looking forward to climbing into a Vauxhall Astra to take it for a drive, but I am doing. Let's have a look at this interior first anyway though. To start with, it's all the same colour as the exterior of the car. There's lovely hard-wearing tweed seats and tweed bits on the door cards and wind down windows, and that handle there, sorry, that is no worse than what you get in a modern car. This material here looks like it's the kind of thing that we have in modern blinds actually. I mean, it's all quite it's very dated looking, but it's very functional, just like the rest of it. It's got a nice shelf on there for storing your spanners and your cup of tea. And then this kind of stack of things to do, including somewhere to put your 5 tapes. Interesting that there was a limit on how many tapes you could carry around with you tidally. But to have an area to put tapes in without their cases is the old style equivalent of having an auxiliary port. And it's more just 80s everywhere, really. Even the orange bits and the white bits there, it just looks so unbelievably 80s. The thin rim steering wheel, the horn that you probably need the ignition on to work, and these small vents that, well, they still work. That's the thing, they're made of a decent plastic. The original radio, these things here feel nice and functional. They're not too stiff, they're not too horrible. That's quite clicky, but then this is a very old car. What I am feeling at the moment is it's a very narrow thing. In how close you're sat to your passenger here. And does that mean that in the rear there isn't room to be a passenger? Shall we find out? Well, as I suspected, it's not really a good place for adults to sit. It's good if you've got a tall body, but not any legs. So there's your sacrifice. An honest old style engine. One with a massive frying pan with a bent handle as an air filter. Single cam, probably a 1.6 I guess. And it's all very clean. Yeah, now does it have much power? Does it need much power? I don't think it does really. It's interesting, you can actually see right down to the floor there in these gaps. And that's how cars used to be. It means that everything's accessible, so you can fix it. I would ask if anybody misses a time when you can fix your own car, but I already know the answer to that, so I'm not going to bother asking it. I think it's fair to say that the Astra is a compact car, and you'd think the old one would be kind of useless for boot space, but look at that. That's gangster boot material. That I could be trapped in there for a week. I'd probably find a way of getting out, but I mean I could fit in there very easily. Before I test drive this car, I'm going to mention that this is actually for sale, and I'm going to put a link in the description to the eBay ad and the chap's Facebook page or profile, just so you can, contact him should you want to buy it. It's only got 66,000 miles and one owner, and it's absolutely rock solid underneath. It's had the arches welded up by this chap. He seems to know exactly what he's doing. The colour match isn't brilliant, but as you can see, that's exactly what you want to see on an old motor. Let's switch it on. That's a very nice, smooth 1.3 engine, not 1.6. That's smaller, but very good. 68,000 miles. 68,000 miles, wind-up windows, no power steering. Perfect. And off we go in the Astra 1.3 through the little village of Milno, which has 75 brake horsepower. That is significantly more than I was expecting. In fact, 75 brake horsepower for a 1.3 single cam engine from the 80s is good going. And that's the kind of horsepower that's all low down grunty torque stuff as well, instead of zingy, ready nonsense that gives you an earache. Oh yes. Well, the first thing to say about this car is it's just very, very easy to drive. It's one of the early generations of cars that just, you get in and you drive it, you don't have to think about it, it just does exactly as you expect, which is nice. But this, of course, looks rather classic now. It looks very classic, in fact, especially in this colour. I love this colour. This colour is great. No power steering, no problem. The steering wheel is big enough to actually get the leverage that you need, and you simply just power steering would be a waste of time. The gearbox is kind of typical Vauxhall, really. It's a bit notchy. Would you agree?
Yes.
They always are, aren't they? They always feel the same. It's quite a long throw as well. And now we're approaching the launch area where we can go a bit more quickly. There's a lot of gravel there to avoid. Somebody's emptied their truck on the road. Perfectly capable of keeping up with any modern day traffic. It does actually feel like it wants to go. It looks like it wants to really sort of eagerly shoot off down the road. And looking at the speedo, it does move along quite nicely as well. It's a thoroughly charming little car, actually. The kind of everyday classic you could use every day. Although it looks like it should have a tray of cuttings on the parcel shelf or something like that. Because you've just been to the garden centre and spent all your pension. Well, there we go. That's as fast as you're allowed to go anyway. And we've got 5th gear, which was a bit of a novelty at the time. Kind of a happy song, really, this car. It just feels cheerful and eager to please. It doesn't show off, it doesn't pretend to be something it's not. It's just a nice little car. And I think it's going to be well worth the asking price. So we have some sort of conclusion to this video and to this car. And that conclusion would be, as you can probably tell, I actually like it. I like the old thing. It's a Vauxhall from a time where Vauxhalls were Vauxhalls and Fords were Fords, rather than being almost the same car. But these days, of course, everything's the same car. I'm going to do that one again. I don't want to talk about everything being the same. But no, this is it's just a thoroughly pleasant old motor. I'd happily drive that every day. I like it.